Good evening. Welcome to the Bennington Select Board meeting for October 26th, 2020. I'm Donald Campbell, the chair of this board, and I'd like to ask the board members to please introduce themselves, starting with you, Bruce.
Hi, this is Bruce Lee Clark. Welcome to the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. This is Jean Connor.
Hi, this is Jeannie Jenkins.
Good evening, this is Jim Carroll.
Happy Monday, it's Sarah Perrin.
Great. And also with us tonight, we have our town manager, Stuart Hurd, our assistant town manager, Daniel Monks. We have Shannon Barsati from the town who will be on momentarily with us. And we have Cat TV. Stuart, right now we don't have Nancy Lively with us, although she did get the invitation, but Jeannie had some trouble logging in, so there may be some issues with that. But we do have this recorded on Cat TV, so is it safe to assume that we can proceed without our secretary as long as we've got it on Cat TV?
Yes, and I can take some notes so that when she joins, she can pick up on it.
Okay, thank you. Board, before we start this meeting, I have to read this piece which says that due to the COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency declared by Governor Scott and pursuant to Addendum 6, Executive Order 1-20-92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location to attend this meeting. However, the public may view it on Cat TV and call in at 1-646-558-8656 using the meeting ID 830-2494-9389, and I'll put that up on the screen in just a minute. If technology fails us, the meeting will be continued at a time and place to be determined. All votes that are not unanimous will be done on a roll call basis according to the law. Here comes Nancy Lively. Great. So before we start this meeting, I am going to ask if we could adjust the agenda, please. I would like to add an item to the agenda between items number 3 and 4. I've asked Cassie Barba, the town clerk, to come talk to us about details about voting on November 3rd and some of the voting security things and other relevant issues, most of which she knows more than I know about. So if that's okay with everybody, again, I'd like to amend the agenda to add a town clerk item between bullets 3 and 4. If that's okay with you, I guess I would say, please unmute yourself. And all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, so we've adjusted that. Before we start this meeting, I do have to bring up something that wasn't very happy. It happened last week, 2 weeks ago, actually. That just over 2 weeks ago, during the peak of the foliage season, a Vermont teacher from Windham County and her son were visiting the Battle Monument. I don't know how many of you saw it, but Channel 10 television reported, and several media companies also ran, that a man walking his dog shouted profane racial slurs at them, telling them to go back to China. Although the news clip was about rising hate speech towards Asian Americans, as home to one of the most visited landmarks in Vermont and a community that prides itself on being open and accepting, Bennington residents should condemn this man's behavior in the strongest of terms. His behavior was so strong and it disgusted me so much that I contacted the victim and offered her a deep apology on behalf of the select board, the town government, and the larger community. I didn't expect the victim's outward willingness to accept our apology and her willingness to hope for better from Bennington in the future, but she offered it nonetheless. And I wanted to read you this email that she sent me, because this is a woman who was hurt, by racial slurs, a Vermont resident and her son at our monument, and I sent her an apology, and this is what she sent back. Dear Mr. Campbell, thank you so much for sending me this kind and warm letter. I was deeply moved by your sincere words. I accept the apology, though I don't think Bennington community owes me any apology. The reason I accepted the WTEN interview was not just for myself, but also for other Asian Americans. I've been worried about the safety of my Asian heritage students since March, when the coronavirus was also named as Chinese virus. A few former students told me they had similar experiences, but they just let it go. Originally, I posted my experience on Facebook with 3 beautiful landscape pictures. one of my former students who works at WTEN contacted me and asked for a Zoom interview after she read my post. I strongly feel that if we want to stop racism, xenophobia, and hate speech, we need to speak up and let other people know our experience. Bennington is one of the most friendly and beautiful towns to visit in Vermont. I visited Bennington Monument with my family and friends for many times since 2002. We had many wonderful memories of our visits. This hateful speech I encountered will not stop me from visiting this beautiful and peaceful historic site. I will separate my beautiful memories from this experience. I'd like to say thank you to the entire Bennington community. Thank you so much for your support. So that was a pretty forgiving letter, I felt, from a woman who had been treated very poorly. So it could be a very hard winter. We are going to need to be our best selves to get through this. And this is an example of that. We're going to need to be our best selves both to each other and to the outside world. And we need to shun racism and xenophobia, both when we see it on hideous public display and when we recognize it in ourselves. So last Wednesday, 5 teachers from the SVSU Early Education Program wrote a commentary in the banner. And here are the 3 core behaviors that they remind us to embrace. I'm quoting from their op-ed piece last Wednesday. As early childhood educators in the SVSU Early Education Program, our work with young children centers on fostering a strong sense of community and understanding for one another, where we evaluate our feelings and discuss them constructively. We want our children and families to understand that not only do they matter, but what they say and what they do matters as well. They go on, in the SVSU, some of our behavioral expectations for our students are: be kind, be respectful, be responsible. Be kind, make others feel welcome, accepted, seen. Be respectful, understand that although you may not relate to someone, show deference and consider how you could learn from them in some way. Be responsible, take leadership, and do right by your whole community and not just for your personal perspective. So these teachers have offered us a great summary. These are the basic sets of behaviors we should be able to expect from each other. They're simple, they're sometimes hard, but they're important. So thank you to Natalie Klein, Laura Biddle, Nikki Dockham, Kathy Thompson, and Sharon Kaiser for reminding us to be kind, be respectful, be responsible. And if you can't walk your dog without shouting racist slurs at strangers, please go walk someplace else besides the Monument Circle. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to start this meeting. And our first agenda item is our consent agenda, which is the minutes of October 12th and the warrants and the liquor licenses as circulated. Nancy Lively is still with us. She was with us. I don't see her on the screen. Oh, there she is. Okay. So any questions for Nancy on minutes? Any questions for Stuart on the warrants that you have not already had a chance to ask him about, or the liquor license?
Do you want a motion?
I'd look for hands here. I'd prefer to have a motion for the purposes of discussion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, discussion. Go ahead, Bruce.
Nancy, it's line 145. And it's my discussion about the policy that we were going to be taking up. And I may have misspoken, which is certainly possible. What is stated in the minutes is policy regarding hate speech. And I should have said, and I don't know what I said, so I didn't go back and look at Cat TV. It's hate crimes, not hate speech. So I don't know how we do that in this system. So whatever it is, correct it now.
I think note in the minutes tonight that was the intention.
Yes, that's a good way to do it. Okay. Thank you, Donald. That's
Before
it.
I go on, I forgot to share the screen that perhaps Jeannie was just about to remind me. This is the screen that shows the dial-in information I mentioned. I apologize, I went through this kind of fast in the beginning. So the dial-in number is 646-558-8656. And the meeting ID is 830-2494-9389. You'll have to press pound twice to be entered into the meeting. And then when you are, you'll hear music until we enter you, or you'll be on hold in the waiting room until we enter you into the meeting. At that point, because of the new Zoom security features, you will have to unmute yourself using *6. It'll prompt you for that, but if you push *6, that will unmute you, and you'll be entered into the meeting at that point. So again, 646-558-8656, meeting ID 830-2494-9389, and we'll open public comment in just a minute. Other comments from the board while I have this up? Jeannie, go ahead.
Yeah, mine was real quick. Nancy, the spelling of Tatro is, you did a beautiful job, but it's really just Tatro. It's line 32.
Thank you, Jeannie. Any other comments from the board?
Yes, so line 57, Ms. Perrin clarified that the cost it should be will not be voted on instead of are not being discussed, I believe. I did not go back and look at that, but I believe that's what I said.
Yeah, it's always tricky with minutes. We're recording what was said, not what we meant to say. But at very least, we can correct that at the next meeting. And if you're quite sure that's what you said, Sarah, let's correct the minutes to make sure that they're correct as we go forward. Okay. Seeing no other comments from the board, I would ask you to please unmute yourselves. And all in favor of the consent agenda as circulated, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? No? Okay. Thank you very much. We have two people in the waiting room. I'm going to admit the first caller. We are now moving into public comment. I am going to admit the first caller, caller ending in 025. And caller ending in 025, I would ask you to, I'd welcome you to the Bennington Select Board meeting first, and then I would ask you to unmute yourself using *6, and please give us your name and tell us where you live and what's on your mind.
Hi, this is Nancy White, and I've got some questions on recreation.
Good evening, Nancy.
First, what has it cost us to date out of the town budget since town officials and UCS first started working together at the rec center over 2 years ago?
So Nancy, we've been through this before, but this is not a time to pop questions on us that we don't have the information for. If you would like to ask questions like this, the way to do it is to contact the town manager, and he can get that information to you. So we don't have that information right here for you. If you'd like to give us a list of questions, we can take the list of questions and get back to you with answers.
Okay, but I'd like to let you know, as members of the select board, this is information you should know. It's our town budget that you're spending.
Okay, well, it is information we can look up, but it's not necessarily information that we have on our fingertips. So would you like to give us a list of questions and have us get back to you, or would you like to contact the town manager and get the facts directly off the spreadsheets? How would you like to do this?
The following questions you should be able to answer for me right now.
Nancy, we're not doing Q&A period right now, okay? This is citizens' comment. You may make your comments, and we will get back to you as able, but this is not a Q&A period.
Okay, here's my comments. I'm hoping that at the meeting that you have on recreation in November, that before that we will get the proposed rates for the recreation center. I also hope that we will know what the fees are the Y wants to charge for after-school programs, snow day programs, and other programs. I've asked you about this publicly 2 years ago. I also hope that we're going to be given a list of the breakdown of memberships so that we can look this over before the meeting. I'm hoping that Betsy from UCS and Jesse, the CEO from the Y, will be available at that meeting for comments. two other quick questions. You talked about a bike path on Franklin Lane. I would like to know where the bike path is going to connect to. And I also want to know where's the information on the SBC property that we've been asking for since January. Now, it's very disappointing that the people we elect to represent us, and you all talk about accountability and you're going to speak to us. And yet when we call with questions, you no longer can answer questions to citizens.
So Nancy, have I got this right? The proposed rates for the rec center, fees for the Y that they want to charge, lists of breakdown of membership. You'd like to be able to approach Jesse, the CEO, with questions during the rec center thing. You want to know where the bike lane on Franklin Lane goes, and you have questions about SVC information. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're not answering. That's just not what we do right now. It's not kind of Q&A period, but be happy to have a list of questions that we get back to you with answers on. And again, the easiest way to get answers to this is to contact either me or Stuart or somebody ahead of the time, so we can get the information together to you and get you smart answers. But
I asked you.
Shooting off the cuff.
I'm sorry. One last question. I asked you at the televised town meeting in March when we were going to get the information on the SBC property.
Well, we don't know very much about it right now, but as you know, there's a lot. There's a lot going on right there, and we'll let you know as soon as we have anything to tell. So Nancy, thank you for this list of questions. Stuart, you got the list too?
I do, yes.
And Nancy, we will be discussing this. We have a recreation topic coming up. I think it's our next meeting.
Yes, it is.
And we will discuss these, be prepared to discuss these questions and any others. Certainly if you'd like to see drawings of the Franklin Lane project, if you'd like to see any of that information, that's available through the town office. We don't have anything to tell you about SVC right now, but all of the other things you mentioned about the rec center we'll be covering next week. Okay.
So basically, when citizens call in with questions, you're going to refuse to answer us. And this is what you call accountability and transparency to the citizens of this town.
No, this is what we call citizens comment, Nancy. This is the chance for you to call in, for you to make comments, for you to pose questions, and for us to get you answers. But it's not a time for you to shoot questions at us without any warning, where we don't have the time to pull the information together. But if I've got all your questions, we will get answers for you, and we'll be prepared for these questions when we talk about the rec center at the next meeting. And I can have the assistant town manager get you whatever information we have on the Franklin Lane improvements, if you like.
Okay. Well, thank you. And just a reminder, I asked 8 months ago at the public town meeting for the SVC information. Goodbye.
Donald, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what information she seeks.
Okay. Well, one of us can be in touch with her.
All right.
I'm going to let the second caller into the meeting here. Caller ending in 328. We've just entered you into the Bennington Select Board meeting for public comment. Please, if you can, press *6. That will unmute you, and then give us your name and tell us what's on your mind tonight. Tell us where you live and tell us what's on your mind tonight. So caller ending in 328, I've entered you into the Bennington Select Board meeting, and I would ask you to press *6 if you can hear me. *6 will unmute you. Zoom no longer lets me unmute you from this end. So if you can press *6, that will let us hear you. I think that's a pretty unfortunate upgrade by Zoom. I'm going to press this ask to unmute, and I'm not sure if it's going to prompt you to press *6. There we go.
Give us your name and tell us what's on your mind tonight. Tell us where you live and tell us what's on your mind tonight.
So caller ending in 328, I would also ask you to please turn down the volume on your TV or your radio,
yes,
so that we don't have any feedback.
Great. Okay.
Are you getting feedback from me?
No, it's great. We've got you now. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Sorry,
Okay, good.
I'm sorry the system is clunky. We're doing the best.
That's
we can
okay.
here.
That's okay. So this is Alyssa Del Tufo. I live in North Bennington, and I'm calling with
Hi, Alyssa.
some information for the select board, but also for the community. It seems maybe even more apropos now than after hearing the story about the hate speech incident at the monument. So you may have heard and seen that there's a group of citizens, myself included, who are approaching the community with a resource. It's called Bennington Restorative Circle Project. And circles are a method used by the restorative practices community. And we're trying to run a series of circles here in the community for citizens to basically, we're kind of labeling this in a broad sense, healing the divide, and giving people the opportunity to get together and build relationships, build their ability to communicate more effectively and more in a more kind of compassionate and a way where everyone is really listening to each other. Obviously, the situation that happened at the monument is an indication of people's kind of inability to see each other as other human beings, and we're really trying to work on building connections and building bridges between people, even if they are in certain ways different from one another. And the first set of circles is this coming Sunday, November 1st. We're doing online circles and circles that are in physical space together, of course, with all the appropriate COVID protections. There'll be an article in the newspaper tomorrow about this. We'd love it if some folks from the select board would come. We'd also love it if we could get some people that work at the police department to come. I think it's a really valuable and low stress way for people to just see each other outside of their, kind of roles that we play in the community, and more just person to person, and build some effective relationships that ultimately will help us kind of address some of these racist and xenophobic comments and behaviors that occur everywhere, and including our own community of Bennington. When you see the flyer, there are links to the registration form and a very short video that kind of gives people a sense of what circles are. So we just wanted to make the select board aware of that, and to invite you, and to let you know that it'll be in the paper tomorrow. And if you can share it with people that you think would like to participate, if you can share it with people who you think might not be your normal suspects for participating in this kind of thing, it would be really valuable, because the more diversity of points of view that we can get at these circles, the more rich and effective they'll be long term. So that's what I wanted to say.
Melissa, thank you for doing this for our community, and thank you for, coming on the air and telling us about this. It sounds unusual. It's not something I'm used to hearing about, and I think probably a lot of people may be interested in hearing about that. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, I just want to add one more quick thing, and that is I do restorative justice and restorative practices locally. I teach that at Bennington College, and I work all over the state, and in fact all over the country doing this. And one of the things that's been interesting to me, because we've tried to keep this very local and kind of low key in a lot of ways, but somehow people from around the state have found out that this is happening here, and a lot of people are expressing interest in it and want to discuss it with myself and some of the other organizers after the first meeting, because a lot of people in a lot of communities around Vermont are struggling with the same issues that we are, and the same kind of divides that seem to be getting bigger in our communities rather than smaller, and are looking for empowering and effective ways of doing kind of grassroots change. So I think that this is not only important for our own community, but provides a model and a kind of a beacon of some kind for other towns around the state. So we will be sharing what we've been doing and how the circles go on Sunday with other communities. So I think that's a really powerful way that Bennington can kind of take the leadership in some of these difficult conversations that we all need to have in the state.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Shannon just circulated the flyer to us on this meeting. So
Oh, great. Oh, yeah, Shannon is registered to come, so we're really appreciative of that. And like I said, it'll be in the banner tomorrow, so people can learn more about it. Okay?
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Yep, have a good
everybody.
evening.
Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, we are going to move on from citizens' comment to item number 3. Cassie, our town clerk, I can see that you're in the waiting room. I'm going to leave you there a little bit longer. I did tell you it was going to be 6:30. It'll probably be more like 6:40. So we'll be, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but thank you for hanging out there. In the meantime, I'm going to pull in a couple of people that are well known in Bennington, Sylvia Casano and Jonah Spivak. And Sylvia and Jonah have had some great success recently with Shannon and others. And maybe Shannon, I'll let you, how about you tee this off for us? Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So it's my pleasure to introduce Sylvia Casano and Jonah Spivak from, they are the co-chairs of the AT Community Advisory Committee, which Sylvia spearheaded to put in an application for Bennington to be designated as Appalachian Trail Community with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. The Conservancy is really they're the keepers of the Appalachian Trail. And so I'll let Sylvia talk more about what exactly a designation means, but I just really appreciate all of her efforts in leading this process, and Jonah's as well. And part of that included organizing the whole community committee to discuss, the future of the AT in Bennington and how we can improve it, how we can recruit more people to be involved, and how to really connect the hiking community with our community. So that's one of our long-term goals. So I'll let Sylvia take it from there.
Is my sound okay still?
It is.
Or is it
Sounds
bad?
good.
Just checking.
Yep.
If it's bad, okay. Yeah, rural internet. So, well, Jonah, were you going to start or, sorry?
Well, I was going to, but Shannon did such a great job. And
Okay.
I think it's important to recognize that both you and Shannon really took the lead in getting this going. So why don't we start with you, Sylvia, and then at the end, I'll mention about the meeting next week. Does that sound okay?
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I will go on then. So though I no longer live in Bennington, I grew up in Bennington and I worked for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. So currently I still work in recreation management for Slate Valley Trails up in Poultney. And something I wanted for a long time was this Appalachian Trail Community designation. And I worked with, during my time with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, I worked with Great Barrington and North Adams to host different events related to this designation. North Adams, I was there when they got this designation. So the key to success for this, for the over 40 communities that are now part of it, which we are now part of, was to have a solid steering committee led by community members. So right now, how we are structured is that we have our advisory committee that worked to host our first meeting and then review and draft the application and then present it to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy's Regional Partnership Committee, which just met the other weekend. And then our role as advisory committee is to take it back to the interested community members to really make this designation what they want it to be. On the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, why they have this designated program is to assist communities with sustainable economic development with the goal of fulfilling their mission, which is to preserve and protect the Appalachian Trail. And so that includes the user experience and the landscape. So that's kind of an overview of where we're at in the program. And in the application, we put forth a few ideas for our first event, which we could probably still do with COVID protocol, and then service learning or educational components, and then future goals. And this doesn't just relate to through hikers, this relates to how we outreach to the local community, how we outreach to people who come for the weekend, whether it's day hikers, overnight hikers. And we did have to submit language in our town plans and get some letters of support as well for this. So that's what I have.
So where do we go from here? As an AT community, it comes with benefits to the community at large, primarily promotional in terms of letting hikers know that we are an AT community. But the flip side of that is really that we are committing ourselves to provide assistance and support to those hikers when they come to our town, which to a large extent we already were doing. We are very fortunate here that we have an active Green Mountain Club chapter in Bennington. And I don't know if Tim Marr made it on the call or not, but if he did, he's the current president of that chapter. I believe Reed Goosen will be succeeding him. And working closely with the GMC is one of the advantages of us getting this AT designation. One of the things that I want to see happen out of this is that we do a better job of drawing in the youth and the next generation of stewards and leaders for our outdoors and the Appalachian Trail. And of course, here it's also our long trail with a long history here in Vermont. That is really important to this whole project. So there's really two sides of it. It's what it can do for Bennington, but even more importantly, what can Bennington do for the Appalachian and the long trail? And by the way, if you didn't know this, the whole idea of a long trail happened on Stratton Mountain in Vermont. And the idea for an Appalachian Trail, at least according to the Smithsonian article I read, also was inspired on Stratton Mountain by someone who was then on the Appalachian or on the Long Trail. So a lot of these connections come together right here in Bennington in our long history of connections with outdoor recreation. This is another piece of that puzzle. The AT Community Advisory Committee will be meeting, the full group will be meeting tomorrow, this Tuesday, at 5 p.m. If you would like to be involved in this, if this is something that you're passionate about or you're interested in, you can email me at jonaspivak@gmail.com and we'll get you that information so you can participate. One of our thoughts for this year is obviously with the pandemic raging, we're primarily thinking about planning for 2021 and what hitting the ground running once things improve. But having said that, there's a lot of work to do. There are a couple of conditions that were attached to our application that we will be addressing, and then we'll just be going forward. So again, thank you to everyone, and in particular to Shannon and to Sylvia and all the others on the committee who worked on the application, and the committee as a whole who have supported us throughout this process, and of course the Bennington Select Board. This is what it takes. It takes a whole community coming together to be an AT community, and I'm very excited that we were successful in getting that designation.
That's great.
And
Shannon,
I just wanted to add, I
Go ahead,
forgot.
Sylvia.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that the other, there are other AT communities in Vermont. So we are also joining Manchester, who got the designation probably 4 years ago, and then Norwich, which is also next to Hanover, which is, they're both AT communities. So partnering with Manchester and North Adams was also one of our hopes as well, sharing ideas and making the program stronger regionally. Not just for Bennington, but expanding our network.
It's great. And, you know, a lot of the economic development stuff we've done over the years, we've done a lot of different looks at this over the past 10, 20 years, and many of them point to our native assets, to the things that we have here that other communities don't have. You know, we have I think it's true, we have the only long trail spur that goes directly into a town center. I'm not sure if that's quite right, but I think the the spur that comes down Bald Mountain is one of the few that goes directly into a town, the downtown area. So we really have this great connection to
Correct.
coming through, and we should absolutely both be helping them, but having them be a part of our future too, I think. So this is great. Are there any questions from board members about this? I know that Sam Restino, who is probably watching this, will be thrilled by this. He's mentioned this about 20 times over the course of the years. It's certainly something that I'm very glad to see happen. Again, you know, we live up on Route 9, so we see the backpackers going up and down all summer long. And I think it's great to try to strengthen that relationship, if anything. But board members, I see Jean, you have a hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations and thank you both so much. I'm just curious, and there may be too many people to name, but I'm curious who some of the other committee members are, and I'm curious how long this process took.
I can answer that. So Jonah and I are the co-chairs, and then Shannon is on our advisory committee, as well as John Shanahan, Tim Marr, Mike Wadja, I apologize to Mike if I mispronounced his last name, and Steve Love. So both Mike and Steve came to the first community meeting that we had at the Bennington Free Library. And then there's some other folks that expressed interest. And the process, when did we have that meeting, Jonah? Last summer. So we had it last summer. We were going to present it to the Regional Partnership Committee in April, but that, you know, that was this April and it got postponed till fall. So I guess a little over a year so far.
And I would add to that, in addition to the people that Sylvia named that were on the subcommittee directly responsible for the application, we have about 24 members in the committee of the whole, which consists of community members from all walks of life who are also very much a part of this committee. And I apologize, I don't have that full list here, but I can provide you with that.
Okay, other questions from board members? You know, if not, I think we really owe a round of digital applause to these folks for carrying the water. There's a lot going on and everybody's busy. And Jonah, I know you're trying to keep a business going and you've got all sorts of things going on. Sylvia, you're trying to build a trail network up in Pulteney and you're very, very busy, but somehow you made time for this, you and Tim and the other people that helped out. And I'm just really, really thankful to all of you.
Happy to do our part.
We all are. So I see claps. I see happy icons here. So thank you very much for doing that work.
All. And thank the community for all of the support. We can't do it. It's because of the community we're doing this.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks for joining us at short notice. Go ahead.
Thank
Sylvia.
you.
All right. Good. Take care. We'll
I
be in
was
touch
just
soon.
going to say the most flattering email. Thank you.
I want to hear the flattering email.
Yeah.
We're dying to hear about the flattering email.
Okay. Sorry. The most flattering email we got about the community meeting was from Elizabeth Titus, who, if you don't know who she is, she founded the Student Conservation Association and she lives in Shaftesbury. And well, she called me actually, so I don't have her email. So I need to, hopefully she saw the article in the paper. So that was amazing because I look up to her. So
That's great. She's an awesome woman. We'll put you in touch. Great. All right. Well, we're going to move on here, but thank you both very much again. And we'll see you on the trail, if not before.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Have a good evening.
Donald, you are muted.
Thank you very much, Bruce. We're going to switch gears here a little bit. Just entered Cassie into the meeting, our town clerk. And Cassie, there are a lot of people that deserve good sports awards, but you certainly deserve one for having me call you at 8 o'clock this morning and ask you to join our meeting tonight. I know you've got nothing going on. It's not like you're buried in ballots or anything like that. It's sitting around twiddling your thumbs in the town clerk's office. But for those of us that are glued to the news these days, it's really scary, all the stuff about voter intimidation. It's really scary about misinformation about treating your ballots. It's really scary thinking that there may be kind of overt attempts at making it so it's not easy for people to vote or discouraging people from voting. And so felt like it was really important in this last meeting before the national election in early November for you to come and tell us what we need to know. And you can take as much or as little time with this, but I did want to make a space for you since you're doing the hard work of keeping this election running fair and clean.
Thanks, Donald. Good evening to you all. It's been a busy fall. As all of you know, it started back in July with the postcards being mailed from the Secretary of State for absentee balloting purposes to try to keep the numbers down at the polls, and it was certainly effective. And thankfully, they automatically mailed them to over 8,000 voters here in Bennington. I say thankfully because there's only 2 of us in the office, and we are very, very busy. So far, we've had over 3,600 ballots come back and be processed. Today alone, we got 280 ballots back between the mail and the drop box out front in front of the town office. And that drop box has actually been a godsend. A lot of people have used it. People seem happy that it's there. And for anyone interested in knowing, it is under video surveillance. It's checked several times throughout the day, and I go in on both Saturday and Sunday to check it at least once. So let me touch briefly on what I mean when I say that we've already processed 3,600 ballots. There's a provision in the law. We've never used it before. I intended to use it this fall anyway, but obviously with the overwhelming number of ballots that have come in, we took advantage of it. But so we work in pairs with the BCA, different political party members. Some of you may have seen it in the banner back in August when we did it before the primary. There's 6 of us working. Kayla and I compare the ballot envelope with the list of voters who have been marked as ballots received. And after they're confirmed that we do have the right person on the list, we pass those ballots on to another team, a Democrat and a Republican, who slit the ballots open and then remove the ballots from the envelopes so that the identity of the owner of that ballot isn't known. It's completely private. And then those ballots go to another team, a Democrat and Republican, who run them through the machines. Then the machine, there's very strict guidelines as far as showing the chain of custody, initialing who's using those machines, and the number that's on the front of the machine when we are done, to make sure it matches the number of names that were checked off the checklist. And then it's securely stored until election day. We aren't counting votes. We are just running them through the machine where it's stored on the memory card until election night, when we will run the tapes just like we will with all of the other results. And if anyone does not want to use that ballot that was mailed to them, I've gotten plenty of phone calls of people who have thrown them away because they didn't realize they needed it or what it was all about. If you still have it and you wish to vote election day, please bring it with you. If you do not have it and we show that there is a ballot outstanding, you will be required to sign an affidavit stating that you have not yet cast a ballot in this election. The drop box is available 24/7. Like I said, it's under video surveillance, and that is available until 5 p.m. on November 3rd, election day. After 5 p.m., ballots would need to be brought to the polls in person up until 7 p.m. In Vermont, we do not count postmarks, so it needs to be received by us no later than 7 p.m. on election day. There's also same-day voter registration that's been in place for a few years now. So if someone has not registered to vote yet and wishes to do so on election day, they can do that. They should be prepared with their valid ID. And if they do not have a valid Vermont driver's license or non-driver ID, they can use the last 4 digits of their social security number, but they should be prepared to fill out the form completely the way their name would appear on their social security card. If that includes a full middle name, we will need that. Let's see, what else would you like to know? So something that I get asked a lot is exactly how the memory cards work with our voting machines in Vermont. What's nice about ours here in Vermont is it's completely self-contained. It is not connected to the internet at all, so we don't have to worry about any sort of infiltration, hacking, whatever you might want to call it. When we receive the memory cards from the election company, several weeks ahead of the election, basically what we do is we run a test election. I use ballots and mark every oval and keep track of what I'm marking and run those through the machine. And when I turn the key and run the results, I know exactly how those results should look. And then I exit the test mode and we lock the memory card in place with a numbered lock, which we keep track of those numbers again, so there can't be any tampering. And then we securely store the machines until election day. Polls, the day of the polls, it will be very similar to how we handled it in August as far as social distancing. We will have all of the check-in tables double depth to attempt to keep the voter at least 6 feet away from the poll worker. And we will have the ballot booths, some of them marked off so that they cannot be used so people aren't too close to each other. We will constantly be floating around cleaning those ballot booths after voters have used them. There will be floor markings. And of course, we have the mask requirement. So we please ask people to use their masks. There will be hand sanitizers available, and there will be some masks available for anyone who doesn't have them. The law does not allow for any campaigning in the polling place. That is not a new law. It's always been in place. So that goes for buttons, hats, masks, t-shirts. You can't have anything that has a campaign slogan or a campaign person who is on the ballot. It can't be in the polling place. So you can wear it outside, but when you get to the polling place, please take off that hat or put a jacket around your t-shirt and come on in and cast your ballot. There will, as usual, be the designated areas for campaigning. Signs can't be left unattended, but campaigners can stand there behind the barrier. As in August, we made the barriers a little bit wider from the sidewalk to allow for plenty of space. The law requires voters to have a clear ingress and egress to the polling place. And the results will be on CAT TV. I've been working with them closely, and hopefully that'll keep the crowd down at the close of the polls. And that's about all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
So board members, I did want to just ask you, Cassie, to talk about security just briefly to make sure that people feel safe going to the polls. Before I do that, it's probably important just to reiterate what you said, which is you received a ballot in the mail. If you want to vote, the best way to do that is to bring that ballot to the polls. Either mail it in or bring the ballot with you. Don't throw it away. Don't cross out the barcode. Don't mess with it. Bring the ballot whole cloth with you into the polling area, right? So yes. That's I think maybe there's been quite a lot of confusion and misinformation about that. A lot of conspiracy theories about crossing out barcodes and stuff like that. So. Okay, so maybe security, and then we'll go to Jean and then Bruce. But go ahead first, Cassie.
Okay, so Stuart and I are actually working with the chief of police to figure out how best to have a presence there and just make everyone comfortable.
Okay. Jean, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Cassie, what's the current situation with poll watchers? And I just wondered if people can, if they're uncomfortable for whatever reason, putting their ballot in the ballot box outside the town office, can they bring it well, they can't bring it into you, but can they hand deliver it if for some reason they're uncomfortable putting it in the box?
Sure. I mean, we are in the office, although the door is locked. People can come to the side door and knock, and we will certainly take it from them. Poll watchers, I'm not sure what exactly you mean by that. I mean, the process is, of course, open. I know that some areas of the country have what maybe you're referring to as far as certain political candidates and campaigns having people at the polls. I haven't heard of any of that yet, so we'll see. Hopefully, I mean, the space is for the voters. Obviously, we're dealing with an issue this year where space is important, and being able to spread out and using the full space and allowing the voters priority to cast their ballot. So we'll see. We'll deal with it when it comes up.
So as of now, you're not expecting any poll watchers?
No.
Bruce, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Cassie, for all you do. You know exactly how I feel about the security of our system. I've experienced it very personally and like it. You did mention the BCA, and for those who are not fluent in Vermont speak, could you describe what the BCA is and who they are, just so folks get an idea? They're the folks who are working there and doing the counting and processing.
Yes, the Board of Civil Authority is the elected 15 justices of the peace, the 7 select board members, and Kayla and I. And one of their statutory tasks is to be election officials. So obviously those 22 people aren't enough. So I do have an additional pool that I pull from, but the stuff that we're talking about with the early ballot processing, that is all board members. And again, it has to be a balance between the political parties for stuff like that. So when a justice of the peace runs anyway, they run under a political party.
Right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Cassie, for all that you do. And this may be both a question for you and for Stu with respect to the idea of voter intimidation. Is there anything that we can do that would prevent, I don't know, fringe elements coming, bearing weapons at the polls?
Stu, do you want to speak first about the weapons?
Sure. We have checked the legal ramifications of someone coming to the polls, standing outside the polls with a weapon. Vermont is an open carry state, and people are allowed to do that. They are not allowed to interfere with access to and from the polling place, but we can't stop them if they want to carry their weapons to the polling place.
Is there a clear definition of what constitutes voter intimidation?
I would say probably not a clear definition.
I try to frequently check the sidewalk area every election just to make sure everyone's getting along and following the rules. And if we run into any problems, if anyone runs into any problems, I would hope that when they came into the polls, they would seek out someone to make a complaint. And like I said, we are working with law enforcement to, keep us all comfortable. So hopefully everybody will be respectful of that.
Cassie, will there be a police officer on duty?
We're working out the details right now, but Chief Doucette has been really working with me well as far as making sure that we have someone available, and we're working out the details.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Cassie, one small thing, I'm beginning to brace myself for paying my taxes. So when I was down at the office today, I was thinking about how I'm going to pay my taxes, and it said to drop taxes in a box on the parking lot side of the town town offices. I think that means that mailbox at the side door, but I could imagine it might be confused with the ballot box. Have I got that right?
So yes, we do have a locked box that's right by the side door that we used prior to putting in the ballot box. Surprisingly enough, I haven't had anyone try to put their property taxes in the ballot box, but yes, it's the locked box next to the side door. And there's also provisions to be made. If someone needs to pay it in person, they can certainly talk to Joyce or Leah in the collections department and make arrangements to do that.
I see you had something of a hand-through window set up there if need
Yes.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. We will, for those folks who want to pay in person, they need only come to the front of the town offices. The folks in the collections office have made arrangements to have the window open and they can take your payment, stamp the receipt and return it to you all in a safe manner.
Cassie, I want to thank you for what I know in advance for what I know will be a stressful couple of weeks here, but you've always done a great job for us. You continue to do a great job for us. Thank you for updating us and spending as much time as you are making sure that these elections run smoothly and safely and fairly. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next time I promise to give you a little more notice.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, Cassie. Thank you. We will move on to our next item now, which is item number 4. This is the policy displays, signs, and art on public property. Feel like we've had a lot of communication about this. It is just a policy. It's not an ordinance. But just to summarize the final changes I asked Merrill to make in our last round. The way things should happen now is that anybody can bring a suggestion to the board through any number of ways, but the first step will be that it goes to essentially a technical review by the town manager. And so somebody might come to the select board and say, I've got an idea. And we say, that's great in citizens comment. Go to the town manager, fill out the pre-application. Somebody might come to a board member, I've got a great idea. Same thing, that's great. Go to the town manager, fill out the pre-application. So that this technical review piece happens first. Then it will come in the board packet to all board members, at which point the board chair will ask if there's a board member willing to sponsor that project. Assuming there is somebody that's willing to sponsor that project, the project moves on to the next phase of due diligence and then eventually comes back to the full board for its approval or denial. So I hope that catches the points that Sarah was making last time. I think that catches the points that Jean was getting at. I hope this does it. And I'd like to suggest we drive it for a while and make sure and see how it works for us. But are there other comments from the board at this point? Go ahead, Jean.
Yeah, I'm just curious, first of all, when in the process would the applicant, for lack of a better term, have access to this policy? Does anyone know the answer to that?
Have access to this policy?
Yeah, like if when someone walks up to the microphone and says, hey, I have an idea, and you send them to the town manager, would they then get this, in an email or something?
And if I could say, anyone can, once this is adopted by the board, it'll be up on the website.
Okay, so we can direct people to it.
Or they can simply email the manager's office and we'll get them a copy of it.
Okay,
so I think, Jean, what this catches is the point that Sarah wanted all suggestions to go to all the board members, and I wanted there to be multiple entry points so people could bring it in a number of different ways. I think we've done that, but it all gets down to the first step is it will go to the town manager's office for a technical review before it comes to the board.
Right. So here's my thought, and I'm not going to be upset if it doesn't fly. This policy is great. I'm really happy with it. It's long. It's, there's several steps and you're reading a section and it refers you to another section. And, it's the trail is not quite linear. So I guess I'm wondering if it would be beneficial if at the top in bold letters, there was something such as, before beginning the process, you are strongly encouraged to read the entire policy to gain a comprehensive understanding of it. I think it would be great if people at least had the process and they were educated before they went too far.
Never a bad idea to know the full scope of something. But I guess I would say, and I would say, Stuart, I imagine you'll come up with some sort of pre-application form, technical review form that has a couple of boxes that people need to fill out. That would seem like a logical time to make sure that they have the full scope of the information at that point. We could also explain it if anybody had any questions at a meeting. But it is a long piece, Jean, but I think unlike many of what we do, it embeds sort of the values that go around government speech. And I think that that's both important and nuanced.
I didn't mean to insinuate that was a bad thing. I think it's really important that people realize it's a big deal, and there's lots of steps and there's lots of hoops they have to jump through, and there's some safety concerns. And I just think that it would be really beneficial if people went into the process knowing what they were really signing up for.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I don't think it's meant to be a speed bump. I think it's meant to make it so that projects that can't be done don't come to the board for consideration. So yeah, would you be happy with that if it was part of the materials that they received when they went in to fill out the short summary for the technical review? Okay. Any other comments? I have only one, and it's a very, 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 very picky thing, but on page 7, line 45, she talks about next available meeting. I think she meant next available regularly scheduled meeting. So that's the way it's stated in every other part of the policy. So I think I'd like to add that one, regularly scheduled, to that line 45 on page 7. Picky. Okay, so if there are no other comments, I would certainly accept a motion on this policy if one is forthcoming. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, I would move the adoption of this policy.
I would second that.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Jean. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask you all to please unmute yourselves. And all in favor of this Town of Bennington display signs and art on public property policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much, people. We'll see how this goes. This is hopefully will give good direction, but not be too onerous. Okay, the next item on our agenda is item number 5. This is our standing community policing update. We generally look to you, Jeannie, but also to Bruce and Jean, who have been part of this little work group, to fill us in on your work to date.
Yes. So the only sort of the newest thing that we are in the process of doing is working with the Bennington Police Department to determine what the next set of policies will be that the advisory committee take up starting in January. But I think, at this point, both Jean and Bruce have updates on both the community discussion boards and on the community advisory committees. So, Jean, you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, mine's really brief. So the second question is now posted at all 5 locations on all the boards. People would have an opportunity to make a comment to the second question until Thursday. And on Thursday, we'll be posting the third question. I will say that the comments have drastically dropped off. So get out there and make your voices heard. Again, they're at GBIX, St. Peter's, the Rec Center, Inside Powers Market, and on the town office on the front porch. So, and the question is, what makes you feel safe in your community?
Do you want to share what the next question is?
I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I couldn't remember it either. So
Can't
Well,
remember.
just give your update and I'll have it in a minute.
okay. So we met this last week, as I had said earlier, on working on policy regarding the investigation of hate crimes. The power stayed on and we were able to complete our work. I think that one will be going out tomorrow to to our town attorney and to the state's attorney. Just a heads up to everybody. It is my hope. I think more than my hope. It is my intention that the first 3 policies will be before this board, at least initially, on at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which I believe is the 9th. And that's basically for introduction. That would be use of force, response to, I can't think of it. It's use of force, the duty to intervene, and the use of conductive electric weapons. Those 3 policies actually are a group, and they will be following, I think at that point, once we're done with that first trio, the next one, which is fair and impartial policing, will be up for us. So we're going to be on that kind of a schedule where we will be introducing them and discussing them, having the community discuss them pretty regularly from this point on. Just for the folks who are interested in this process, on the 4th of November, we will be discussing responding to those in mental health crises and those with disabilities. On the 18th of November, motor vehicle stops and traffic enforcement. And on the 2nd of December, responding to domestic violence situations. So those are the next 3. And then there, as Jeannie said, we will be making a new list of another 6 at least, maybe more. So that's where we're at.
Great. All right. And so the question that's for the community discussion board that will go up this Thursday is, what do you think the Bennington Police Department could do to improve life and safety?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. It's pretty impressive how many of these things you're taking on. Hope it's not going to slow down your ability to read budgets, because we've got some heavy budget season coming up here, but maybe you all can multitask. I see nodding. That's good.
Not sure what we would do without Jeannie.
Well, you all are doing
Yeah,
good work, and you make a good team, and you're bringing different skills, and it really seems like it's working well for our community to me. I'm glad you have so many community members involved. It's good work.
Again, Donald, if I can just reiterate how impressed I am with, again, we had another 4 folks coming in and just remarkable experiences that they were able to bring to the table for this last one. So we are extremely fortunate to live in a town where this kind of talent exists. And I'm just, I hate to say that I'm looking forward to these Wednesday afternoons, but I actually am. So there you go.
Well, it says something about you too, Bruce. Nothing you love better than to dig into a good policy. So,
yep.
All right. Anything else from the work team? No? Great. All right. Well, thank you. So I think our next item on the agenda is the manager's report. Stuart, looks like you're not looking for any action from us, but we'll try to pay attention anyway. What have you got for us tonight?
Well, I actually don't have a lot, Donald. We've kind of, as we wind down the construction season, things are beginning to fold into place. The big news is that the digester roof, which had been problematic at the wastewater treatment facility, has been completed. That was one of the big outstanding items, but there still remains some smaller nagging repairs that need to be done. And unfortunately, due to COVID, the contractor has not been traveling to Bennington. So we're not sure exactly when all of those things will be completed, but I give a lot of credit to RJ Jolly and Larry Gates, John DeMore and his staff at the wastewater treatment facility for hauling through this stuff. We are probably 97% completed in this massive project. And it appears that we will complete the project several $100,000 under what the original budget was. So I say kudos to those folks for the job they've done. It's been pretty amazing to see the action there. Oh, and the other big thing is all of the paved areas have now been repaved. So I'm beginning to think that the facility is starting to look really pretty sharp and ready for public presentation. We probably won't do much until the spring as far as inviting the public into the facility, but we'll see how these things go. Same thing on the PFOA construction projects. They are starting to wind those down, getting ready for winter shutdown for contracts 8 and 9, which are the contracts that Casella Construction is operating under. They are the two that were expected to go into next spring. So everything seems to be working. There are a couple of finishing things that need to be done on some of the other projects, and we're making sure that those folks meet their goals and can shut their projects down in a well-completed manner. So that's been the goal. I give a lot of credit here again to Larry Gates and RJ for overseeing it from a town staff perspective, and of course to MSK Engineering for the clerk of the works job that they're doing. And I think that's really about it. You've got Dan's bike path report. That there's not really much to update there, except we keep moving along, knocking off projects, trying to make sure that these things happen. And you have, as Donald, you've already alluded to, the budget schedule. Our folks, department heads, have started the budget process. And the next month and a half or so will be a grind for all of us. And then we turn it over to you guys for your work.
It's sort of strange, Stuart. I never would have thought this about myself, but I kind of like budget season. I know that's an odd thing to say, but
Yeah.
I actually do sort of enjoy the grit of the budgets. But I would like to. I can't believe I just admitted to that on air. But anyway, we all have our funny quirks, I guess. But I would like to just make sure board members circled and entered into their calendars the dates of January 2, 9, and 16. Those are the special budget meetings that we hold on Saturdays because we don't get enough during the week. So those are our Saturday budget pushes, January 2, 9, and 16. It'd be great if, especially with only 6 of us, it'd be great if everybody could attend all of those meetings. So please try to get them into your calendars and let me know if you have any particular problems. So I've got 2 hands up for questions to you, Stuart. First, Jeannie, and then Bruce.
I'm just wondering, Stuart, do we know anything about, is there any update on the composting facility? What's happening with that?
You mean our composting facility, or we're using it?
Okay.
We're taking the material, the brush that is being chipped at the transfer station, and we're trucking that to our site. Some of it is being given away to residential customers if they ask for it, but most of it is going to the composting facility, and we are composting our sludges.
Good. Okay.
And so that helps. One, it reduces disposal costs and reduces transportation costs. So it's been a good thing for us. I don't have numbers right off the top of my head that I can throw.
No, that's great. I just didn't know if it was back online because sludge is one of those things for me. All right. So that's good.
It's back online.
Sludge is one of those things. Okay, Bruce and then Jean. Go ahead, Bruce.
Stuart, somebody asked me, and I had also seen it, and I couldn't answer the question. What was going on? I think it had to do with the path at the end of Benmont. This last week, there was traffic slowdown. They were putting in. It looked like something was going on either side of the street. Was it signaling to the new bike pedestrian pathway? Because that's the terminus point. Maybe Dan knows. I just didn't know, and somebody asked me and I couldn't answer him. So
Look to Dan for that one.
Bruce, so that's the contractor that installed the Kosher Drive bike ped project. One of the things that was unexpected was the conduit under the Aldi entrance drive was crushed or couldn't take the new wiring for the signals. So they initially installed them overhead just to get the signals working, but now they've been installed underground. A new conduit had to be installed. They had to do some directional boring underneath that driveway. So that is complete.
okay, so what did have to do with signaling, but I didn't know what quite. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Like that directional boring, huh? Get that cable in the right place. All right. Jean, do you have your hand up still, or is that an old hand?
Yeah, I just have a question. I see on Front Porch Forum, the CUD, their annual report is coming up. Is that something that we should be paying attention to? I mean, I think they're making great progress and they seem to be moving right along, but is it something that we should know about? Should we ask them to come present? I'm just curious.
Last time I talked to Eric, it sounded like they were going to have to merge with Windham County to make it work. Does anybody know anything else other than that?
I don't
know.
Okay.
I'll see if I can get an update from them and see if I can bring something in the next
And it might not be necessary. I'm just wondering if we should at least be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's a heavy lift. I think financially it's a heavy lift, and they're working hard to try to make the numbers work.
Okay.
But certainly.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Donald, if I could, one thing that has been coming into the website, there have been a lot of questions regarding Halloween. And just to let folks know, we've not canceled Halloween. There are a number of events that are scheduled during the day on Halloween to provide the experience for children and families, and they are to be held in various locations, but they're all supposed to be very, very safe, and they're going to adhere to all of the safety standards. And people, as far as I know, would be allowed to go trick-or-treating door to door, but I would encourage parents to exercise extreme care, just as I would the folks who may be handing out candies. Wear a mask, socially distance. There are ways to distribute your goods without having to get too close to the children who may be trick-or-treating. But we're not canceling Halloween.
We're not canceling Halloween.
Unless the governor does.
Unless the governor does, but yeah. It's the COVID numbers are not looking particularly good right now, though. So we all have our antenna up for what's to come. Jeannie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Bruce raised a question in the chat, and I'm thinking none of us can quite remember if we did this. Did we vote? Did we approve the consent agenda? I'm thinking Nancy might know.
I thought we did. I wrote down unanimous, but I might have been just jumping the gun.
I don't remember. I think we did, but if we didn't,
I know we moved it. That I do know.
Well, if we didn't, all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed or abstain? No? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce, for keeping our T's crossed and our I's dotted. And if we've approved it twice, that doesn't mean we are particularly proud of it. It just means that we're losing it a little bit here. All right. So, Stuart, thank you very much for that. Everybody's got the select board dates of January 2, 9, and 16 in their calendar, plus the other budget dates that were circulated. Next order of business is upcoming agenda. I'm Jeannie, I wonder if you'd be willing to, we are going to do something with the rec crew next week, right? So would you be willing to walk us through that?
Yeah, so at 4 o'clock, there will be a tour of the UCS facility. Someone will need to tell me if that's open. I think
It is not, it's not proposed to be open to the public, Jeannie. It's really for the board members to get a feel for where they are.
okay, all right. So we're going to do a walkthrough at the UCS edition, and then both representatives from UCS and from the rec center, from the YMCA, are coming to meet, to talk with us that evening, give us a presentation and update. And
What's
that
the date?
On
What's
the
the date?
9th. On the 9th. It is, right?
Yes.
Next
that's
meeting.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so they will both be here and should be able to answer any community questions at that point.
Jeannie, will you you talk to Jess fairly often, or maybe Stuart. One of you give her a heads up on the questions that Nancy raised tonight, please.
Actually, I think Kayla is going to be the person coming.
Stuart.
I believe that's true, Jeannie. Yeah, we'll give Kayla a heads up that there might be some questionnaires. I doubt that the proposed rates for next year are set. That's a decision that you folks make. We haven't even discussed that. We haven't even looked at what their budget request might be as part of the MOU that we have between the Y and the town. They might be able to indicate the fees for childcare. I think Kayla would be prepared to do that. And then the cost between the UCS and the town, since the project began, that's something that I can pull together.
Okay.
So I think we'll be able to answer. Kayla will certainly be able to answer the questions regarding their programs and processes there. But some of the future stuff is still speculative.
Yet to be determined. Yeah, yet to go through the budget.
And I do know that Kayla let us know that she can do the breakdown on where users are coming from. So she'll be able to do resident and non-resident.
Okay. Great. Other items that need to be on the agenda on the 9th?
Sounds to me like we've added the introduction of at least 3 of the policies that have been reviewed.
That is my intention.
Okay. Give us plenty of time with them, please. What are you doing? Showing us red lines or just giving us the final things?
No, you'll have the red line version, and there will be a clean version so that the community will have something that they can read and look at for the following meeting.
And so we'll make sure that the policies can come out in the next board packet so that the community can see it as well. If not, we'll delay it until we'll postpone it to the next meeting.
Exactly.
Great. Okay. Anything else from town staff?
Not from me, as far as I know. We've been going great guns here throughout the summer with these wonderfully long agendas and wonderfully long meetings. So it's nice to see the agenda starting to compress just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to take that, Stuart, but I'll try to take it. I'll take my own words and try to take it in a charitable way.
I said it with a smile, Donald.
All right. I did want to give you a compliment on your first quarter analysis summary. I like this format, this 2-page format. This really works well for me.
Yeah, of course we're in the midst of our audit, so Melissa tends to be tied up more often than she's not.
Yeah.
So sometimes getting that information and getting it out to you folks is delayed just slightly.
Okay, other business. I feel a little bit like I spoke my piece tonight, but why don't we make a little room here if there's anybody that has something they want to say. I see Jim's hand up and Jeannie's hand up. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a topic that was brought to me by Charlie Murphy, and I spoke with Stu about it, and that is cannabis sales in the town. With the law that was passed, any measure that would include cannabis sales in the town would have to come by a townwide referendum, which would give us plenty of time to get it on the ballot in March for town meeting day. But I'm going to let Stu, or I'd ask Stu to fill in some more of the details.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not probably as familiar with the law as you are, Jim, which would make sense. But I'm attempting to get a copy of the law. I will distribute it to the board members as soon as I have it, so that you can all read it. It is, as Jim tells us, it's an opt-in. The people of the community must approve. A question as to whether or not sales can be made. These are retail sales within a community, and there is an incentive of 2% of the tax revenue comes back to the community that hosts a retail sales operation. I believe that's this basis of the incentive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And just one other thing that I want to make the people of Bennington aware of with respect, and it's questions about there's been an addition of $76.7 million in grants that were allocated for businesses that suffered losses during the pandemic. And I've heard from some folks that, they weren't aware of it. And if they're not, then I invite them to go to the ACCD website, that's the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, to look into that, as well as My B-Tax. That money is there to be spent and to make up for losses that businesses suffered. And that's it. Thank you.
Sorry, little mute problem there. Thanks, Jim. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Okay. So I just wanted, there is a virtual tour of the Lake Perrin Village that Shires just completed tomorrow at 5:30. And it's really cool because they did a lot of amazing energy efficiency improvements to the village. And those include things like a rooftop solar system, all electric heat, shallow frost protected foundations, particular kind of air seals, and also an air to water split heat pump system. And so they're going to have like knowledgeable people showing us on Zoom tomorrow exactly what they've done and why they did it. So it's free and open to the public, and you can go to BCRC's website and see information there so that you can get the Zoom details. It's at 5:30.
Great. Thank you for that, BSA. Any other comments? Any other board comments tonight? I see Sarah, you have your hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, so I just wanted to announce this again. North Shaft Lions have changed their event a little bit for Halloween. They're doing a tent or treat on the old Tuttle lot across from Anytime Fitness. This is October 31st from 11 till 1. Big trucks, emergency vehicles on display, pumpkin judging, costume judging, and candy, free candy. Bring a pumpkin and have it judged, carved or decorated. Please bring your pumpkins from 8:30 to 10 to be put on display and to be judged. Prizes will be awarded. Social distancing practices will be in effect. Masks are required. Trick or treat and boo. Also, November 3rd, remember to vote.
That's good.
Thank you.
For some reason, the line tickled me. Bring your pumpkins to be judged. I was like, you're a bad pumpkin, but you're a good pumpkin.
The prizes really help.
I suppose that's not what they mean. Anyway, all right. Jean Conner, is your hand back up? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say what a blast the ribbon cutting of the splash pad was. Oh my goodness. That was so much fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. And
I wasn't able to get very many adults to go in with me though.
Yeah, I noticed
and
that.
when I
You were the
came
only
home
one who was
wet,
wet.
my wife was wondering why I was all wet and soggy. So
yeah,
took some explaining.
You're a boy at heart. And the other thing has just been really, really fun is to see the exterior of the Putnam project. It's becoming really, really evident that they're getting closer and closer. So I just, I've really enjoyed watching that kind of be transformed now that we can see it on the exterior.
It's so great. I wish we had a little more warm weather for them, but I guess they're doing what they can. All right, well, friends, I think that brings us to the end of our formal meeting. We have a need for an executive session on a personnel matter. So this has to do with the manager's evaluation. There will be no decisions made at this meeting, so I would look for a motion to go into executive session on a personnel matter, and we'll close down the public portion of this meeting.
So move.
Second, okay, thank you. All in favor of going into executive session, please say, unmute yourselves and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, Bennington, thank you very much for staying with us. Cat TV, thank you very much for airing us. Nancy Lively, thank you for taking minutes. And Stuart Hurd, we don't need you for this section. Dan, we don't need you for this section. The board can take it from here. So anyway, thanks very much and
have a great night, folks.
Have a good evening. Yep.
You too.
Good night, Bennington.